You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. Dina Thorslund, likely facing undisputed champion Shernika Johnson in the coming calendar year, except that Shernika isn't really undisputed. Dina Thorslund never lost her belts in the ring. She's still Ring Magazine champion and still lineal. Dina Thorslund wants to regain the 2 bantamweight world titles she gave up earlier in the year, and facing Shernika Johnson for those belts would actually be a case of double or nothing. Thorslund, 23-0 with 9 KOs, was supposed to bring her WBC and WBO titles into a unification bout with then IBF champion Sharita Metcalf in July on the undercard of Taylor vs. Serrano 3. But Thorslund pulled out because she was pregnant. She vacated her titles, which was subsequently up for grabs when Metcalf instead faced her replacement opponent, WBA champion Shernika Johnson. That fight ended with Johnson stopping Metcalf in the 9th round to become the undisputed champion at 118. Sadly, Thorslund suffered a miscarriage. She is slated to return January 31st in Denmark underneath Jacob Bank versus William Skull. And then the goal is for Thorslund to challenge Johnson, according to Mike Leonardi of MVP, which has both women in its sizable stable of talented female fighters. Leonardi spoke of the plans on Thursday at the WBO's annual convention. She hasn't fought since October of last year, Leonardi said, referencing Thorslund's wide decision win over the 15-5 Terumi Nuki. We felt that it was important for her to get a fight. I didn't know that she was going to be coming back on the undercard of Skull versus Bank. That's not an MVP show. Even though she's supposed to be signed to MVP, Dina has yet to make her MVP debut. Though being signed to MVP, boxing on that show would have still required their approval. I expect that Dina Thorslund will come back with a vengeance. The WBO will allow those plans to move forward, according to WBO President Gustavo Olivieri. In light of Dina's personal circumstances, the committee determined that once Dina Thorslund would be willing, ready, and able to fight again, she would get a chance to fight for the title, Olivieri said during their convention. Now bear in mind, if Dina loses the tune-up fight, she loses a chance to fight for the title. I don't think she's gonna lose that fight. That's where this news is a bit different from what we already discussed, that now the WBO is involved. Now, whether Shernika Johnson likes it or not, her feet are being held to the fire. And she's in kinda tough for the next 2 fights, because it's not just Dina that she has to worry about. Yeah, she's gotta make it past Amanda Galle. But that is where this news is slightly different from what we talked about before, that now the WBO is involved. Now Shernika has to fight Dina. Johnson also has to get through her next fight. She's due to face Amanda Galle December 14th on the undercard of Jake Paul's rescheduled event, per the IBF website. Whoever it is Jake Paul is going to fight, he looks to be fighting on December 14th. Shernika will be boxing on that undercard, and as stated, she's in tough because she's got to face a talented, unbeaten fighter in Amanda Galle, and if she wins, she has to fight Dina. After that, heavy is the head that wears the crown. She's got it. I've seen her upcoming opponent. I've seen Amanda Galle, and I have to say I like what I saw. She's quick, she's sharp, she can move. That's not a gimme fight. That's not a tune-up fight for Shernika Johnson. She's gonna have to work to keep all 4 alphabet titles. I suppose it doesn't really matter who wins that fight because I think Dina beats them both. Dina, to me, still is the best in show at 118 pounds. The only fighter anywhere at or around these weights that I think would give Ellie Scottney a run for her money. She's that good. Catford. Somebody's going to have to pay the piper, and that piper goes by the name Dina Thorslund. I expect her to make it through her next fight. Will Shanika?
There's only one way to find out.
Men's welterweight news. The World Boxing Council President Mauricio Suleiman took to social media and stated, the WBC Board of Governors has voted in favor of lifting the ban on Ryan Garcia after a successful process which had been documented. WBC had been very close to Ryan, his family, management, and promoter. We trust a new life inside and outside the ring will begin. We welcome you with open arms and trust you will be an ambassador for the new generation. Ryan was banned a little over a year ago due to his racist tirade in the spaces on X.
All that stuff he said about digging up George Floyd, resurrecting him, then unaliving him again. He said some pretty awful stuff. Racist stuff without provocation, and for that, the WBC at least momentarily banned him. But now he's been pardoned. He's been forgiven due to some process that he underwent.
Process is that?
I don't know, he baked everybody a lasagna, he made everybody s'mores, some cookies. Process? You ask me what the process is?
Huh?
The process of handing the World Boxing Council a brown paper bag. Brown paper bag with some money in it. Reacting to the news, Ryan Garcia said, I'm officially unbanned from the WBC. I want to thank the WBC for seeing my efforts of change and making this decision. I'm ready to put that green and gold belt on and represent them as a true champion.
In what is being reported as a fight with Mario Barrios, who fought Manny Pacquiao to a draw earlier this year, getting the chance to hang on to his belt a while longer, now getting a chance to defend that belt voluntarily against Ryan Garcia, who's coming off a loss. What did I tell you before? Even though he's coming off a loss to Rolly, the WBC won't care. They'll sanction the fight because they still look at him as a moneymaker, and they want to put that title in the hands of any guy that can sell some tickets, sell some pay-per-views, and make some money. So they don't care that he's coming off a loss.
Or a suspension before that. A suspension for a doping violation. This is why I always say the people in the industry are complicit with doping in the sport of boxing. He tested positive for a banned substance after the Devin Haney fight, got suspended for it, and walked into a title shot with Rolando Romero, just for him to lose and walk into another title shot with Mario Barrios. If the people in boxing really cared about cleaning up the sport, they wouldn't allow this kind of shit. The reason they do is because they don't give a damn.
So why should I? This is why I don't get all hung up on whether a fighter tested positive for a banned substance or not. If the people in the industry don't give a damn, why should I? Though it's still bad optics for the sport of boxing, isn't it? If you even want to call it a sport. What the fuck is sporting about letting Ryan box for a world title? What the fuck has he done to earn that opportunity?
Mario's the one giving it to him.
To a lot of people, Mario Barrios seems like a very lucky guy. He landed a Gervonta Davis fight. He landed a Keith Thurman fight, a Pacquiao fight. Now he's landed a Ryan Garcia fight. He's lucky.
Don't forget he landed an O'Mara's vulva. He's really lucky.
But that's not so much luck as being a glorified loser. The reason it seems like Mario Barrios lands big opportunity after big opportunity is because he sucks. It's because nobody views him as a threat. Do you think anybody is sitting around at the foot of their bed, biting their nails, worried that they're gonna have to fight Mario?
No fucking way.
Mario is a gatekeeper with a belt. Mario, to a lot of people, seems like low-hanging fruit. So a lot of people are willing to fight him because of how beatable he is. You don't have to wonder why he keeps getting big opportunity after big opportunity. It's because everybody thinks they can beat him.
He ain't gonna struggle to get a fight. The way things are now, the better you are, the more you will struggle to land opponents. The worse you are,
get all the opportunities. This all but confirms that Ryan Garcia will be boxing Mario Barrios in the coming calendar year in what is reported to be a joint pay-per-view between the PBC and Golden Boy, between Amazon Prime and DAZN.
Wait, so this guy's coming off a loss and the champion's coming off a draw, and we're supposed to pay extra to see that?
It's the way it is. I'm not happy to hear it, and neither is WBA champion Rolando Romero, who took to his social media to express his discontent with Ryan Garcia.
I also want to give a quick shout out to Ryan Garcia for wasting 6 months of my life on his knees, begging for a rematch, and then wants to go run off and fight Barrios because he's afraid I'm gonna slap him around, and if he actually threw punches this time, I'll knock him out cold.
Broly's upset in the process. He's kind of giving it away that he was relying on that Ryan Garcia rematch now that he's under orders to face his mandatory Shakram Giasov via the WBA. Because I don't expect him to fight Shakram Giasov, even though he's under orders to do so, even though to keep his belt, he's got to fight that guy. I expect him to drop his belt. He likely expected to fight Ryan Garcia in a rematch, on the premise that Ryan's the one that needs it, and a rematch with Ryan is bigger than a fight with Shakram.
Except now Ryan is fighting Mario for his belt since you're about to drop yours.
Broly has since thrown his name in the hat for a Jake Paul fight now that he knows that Jake Paul is in the market for a new opponent after Gervonta Davis fucked up the bag. Rolando is willing to stand in the last 24 hours. It was reported that a lot of people were approached to stand in for Gervonta Davis, who is now out of that show. Ryan Garcia was one of those people, but Ryan Garcia is not at liberty to participate.
No, he's fighting Mario Barrios.
So is Rolando Romero an adequate substitute for Gervonta, for Ryan? Can he fill the void? I mean, he did beat Ryan, didn't he?
That doesn't make him an adequate substitute. Because he beat Ryan doesn't mean he's as popular as Ryan. Doesn't mean that he would bring the same size audience that a Ryan Garcia would.
They're gonna have to come out with some kind of terminology to characterize how internet traffic doesn't necessarily translate into real life motion.
Money.
Rolly is not a big draw. He is not a big ticket seller. He is a glorified B-side.
He's popular online. A lot of people in the boxing spaces know him, know of him, but they're not fans of him. Many of them would not pay to see him fight. So even though he's popular online and he gets traffic online,
not really an adequate substitute for Gervonta, for Ryan. He's up shit's creek without a paddle is what he is, because no matter what, he's under orders to fight Shakram Giasov. I don't expect him to do it. I don't expect him to fight him. I expect he's gonna drop that WBA title. That's the good news in all of this, by the way.
I don't care who Rolando fights next or if he doesn't fight anybody. I don't care. So long as he drops that belt, I'm happy. That's what I want. A guy like Rolly shouldn't be running around with a belt holding up a division.
It's most I care about when it comes to Rolly. As long as he drops that belt, I'm happy either way. Men's cruiserweight news. Badu Jack versus Noel Mikaelian booked title rematch for December 13th. Badu Jack will put his WBC Cruiserweight title on the line in a rematch with Noel Mikaelian on December 13th at the Ace Mission Studios in LA. The WBC mandated a rematch after Jack won a close majority decision over Mikaelian on May 3rd in Saudi.
This is so fucking pointless. I don't know why the WBC is ordering a second fight between these two guys. Yeah, the fight was competitive, but we don't need another one. My initial interpretation of this order was they must be doing a favor for somebody or something. This must be a favor to Don King.
Noel Mikaelian's registered promoter, except that the registered promoter for the show is not Don King Promotions, it's Bash Boxing, who beat out Don King at the purse bid for the show with an estimated $301,000, most of which is going to Badu Jack. As the reigning defending champion, he is entitled to the majority of the purse. What is it? 75, 80%? Noel Mikaelian don't stand to make much from this rematch, though this in and of itself,
Jack don't stand to make all that much either. I'd wager that he made a lot more money boxing this same Noel Mikaelian in Saudi than he's about to make fighting him in LA. I wondered on that premise if this rematch would happen, given that this is a paltry offering for Badu Jack, who's in his early 40s now.
I wondered if he would go through with it, given that he stands to make under $300,000. They have to split that between two people. I wondered if he would do it, but apparently he's going to. Jack won the title in February of 2023 with a 12th round TKO of Junior Makabu. Now 41, Jack will look to again turn back the challenge of Mikaelian, who stepped into the initial fight on short notice when Canada's own Ryan Rositsky was forced out due to injury. Mikaelian, 35, held the WBC title briefly with his victory over Makabu in November of 2023 when Jack was declared a champion in recess after attempting to move up to Bridgerweight to challenge then-champion Lukas Rozansky. That fight never came together, and Jack was subsequently reinstated as WBC Cruiserweight Champion. The Jack vs. Mikaelian rematch will headline a card that has been dubbed Championing Mental Health Presents CMH2 Rematch Season, which will be dedicated to mental health awareness. As stated, I wondered if Jack would go through with this given the paltry offering. I'd wager that if he is, it's because of what he stands to make on the other side of this fight.
If he wins the rematch, he will have a good number of lucrative options. A unification match with Badu Jack, sponsored by the Saudis. There's that. A unification match with Zurdo Ramirez, that would likely be paid for by Golden Boy.
Now that fight won't pay Jack as much as he might make in Saudi with Jai Opataya, but the fight with Zurdo might be deemed more winnable than the fight with Jai Opataya. And that's not all. Jack is also in the running for a fight with Jake Paul.
Jake Paul, who was recently on Sky Sports saying, I would say it's very likely. The stars just have to align, and he has a fight coming up, and he has to win that fight, etc. People always have something to say. It's really not the recognition that I yearn for. At the end of the day, I just want to become a world champion and win fights and go on about my life.
You have to consider that too, that a Jake Paul fight might be just as lucrative as a Jai Opataya fight and even more winnable than either a Jai Opataya fight or a Zurdo Ramirez fight. That if Jake is serious about fighting him...
Jake does have a penchant for fighting aging fighters, doesn't he? Old men?
If Jake is serious about fighting him, Jack might be on board, because with Jake, he can make the kind of money he'd make fighting Jai without all the risks. And the same applies to Noel Mikaelian. If he wins the rematch, if he becomes WBC Cruiserweight Champion, I believe that he would sooner fight Jake Paul than he'd fight Jai Opataya, than he'd fight Zurdo Ramirez.
Noel Mikaelian is not a fighter who's made all that much money as a boxer, as a pugilist. The Jake Paul fight would afford him the opportunity to make the kind of money that he's never made, all on the predication that he's a champion. You won't have to twist Noel Mikaelian's arm to get him to willfully defend that title against Jake Paul. The question is, would the World Boxing Council sanction it?
I think they would. For the kind of money that Jake Paul brings to the table, that Netflix would be involved, I don't think the World Boxing Council would stand in the way of Jake Paul versus the winner of that fight. Look at what they're doing with Ryan. Ryan is coming off a loss, and before that, a doping violation, and they're still letting him fight for their belt.
I'm convinced they would let Jake Paul fight for their belt.
None of this is good news for Jai Opataya, who's set to see action one more time in his native Australia before this year is out, against his mandatory challenger, Hussein Sin Cara. He's staying at cruiserweight in the hopes that he can become this division's next undisputed champion, but he's not having any luck with Zurdo, and he may not have any luck with the winner of this fight.
Zurdo conveniently became injured after his last fight with Chris Billum-Smith and had subsequent shoulder surgery. He should be all healed up by the time next year gets here.
But do you trust him to fight Jai Opataya when next year gets here? Do you trust the winner of this fight? Fighting Jai Opataya is the most dangerous fight for anybody at cruiserweight because there are alternatives.
We don't know that Jai Opataya will ever get the chance to become this division's undisputed champion. We just don't know.
But that is what's going on. Before this year is out, Badu Jack and Noel Mikaelian will fight one more time, and we'll see what develops after that.